So it's been over 2 hours and I haven't moved from this spot. A couple of floats have passed by, and this is the first one that's made a right turn at the divergence of the water, the split. Um, the water rejoins itself up ahead. There's kind of like a triangle shaped wedge in front of me. And anyway, all in all, the herons have not moved at all. I've since seen an eagle and an osprey. The eagle was soaring pretty much at the furthest extent of my field of view, and as it, I guess, began taking flight, an osprey in the same area, which apparently wanted to lay claim to that territory, started dive bombing the eagle. So there are definitely a couple of birds of prey here, although, like I'm saying, there's not a whole lot of activity in terms of fishing. In fact, it's been over 2 hours. The herons are still in place, and this is one of another river raft cruise outfits that has gone by, some of whom may or may not. Oh, the heron's taken flight. I wonder if because there are two herons, as I mentioned earlier in an earlier segment, and one of the herons is still in the tree. I wonder if the one that took off was the acting decoy, and if the other one is the female. And I also wonder who else is paying attention to the wildlife and what they are able to and not able to enjoy in terms of a complete cycle, a complete ecosystem right now at this point. So it's been pretty interesting here where there's fresh water. It's been pretty interesting seeing what's alive here and what appears to be possibly struggling. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not from this area. And on the flip side, I know that herons, where I've typically watched them, have enjoyed eating throughout that time frame when I'd been watching them. They're hunters, and at the same time, they kind of have to lay low and kind of throttle it back when there's not much to hunt in the ecosystem, which apparently at some point will be what we recognize in terms of what we need to do to resolve the global crises that we're continuously faced with. And I know that sounds like a difficult task to accomplish, but not necessarily if we work together and are able to share a message in a way that makes sense. So for those of you who are tuning in just now, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for enjoying these segments with me, and thank you for sharing the knowledge that you have so that this is a multi-way communication channel. And thanks for watching along with these stories that I'm telling you that sometimes can sound oftentimes incredible, but for the observant, those who would point out what we're seeing in nature without trying to raise alarm, we might end up being able to communicate a little better than banning someone from your page because someone shared a picture of a rattlesnake or told a story about one or what have you. There is already a lot of hostility among our fathers, whether they were our native fathers or our surrogate fathers. But whatever the case is, it happens to be, we're all learning these things together that are happening in nature right now. Sometimes in very challenging way to hear. In other words, this isn't the happiest subject, but at the same time, I know that the female heron is in the same tree. She has not left it. And I know that the other heron that took flight because these river raft groups, or this particular group is the first group that went down that side. And even though there wasn't really a real threat that the heron was faced with, it went ahead and took flight to make sure that nobody would know where the female was. If you have any other theory as to what happened just then, maybe go ahead and share it in the comments field. There are a lot of different ways that could have been interpreted. I'm telling you how difficult it must be to fly upwind, up into the wind against the current, and to do so risking exposure to yourself. Perhaps someone in the raft already had pointed out the heron, and maybe that's why it took flight. That way everyone kind of followed it and didn't recognize that there was another heron in the tree. But whatever the case is, I'm seeing some interesting actions based on the wildlife and some of the adversities that it's being faced with. And I hope that we're able to take a moment to also pause and consider this information alongside the in-float entertainment that we might have going forward. Have a great day. Thank you for subscribing, for sharing, and for caring. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff.